Hello, and welcome to the second episode of SHEnanigans, where we're trying to make sure that trailblazing women of the present get into our history books or her storybooks. Today, I have Kim Dostaler with me. Welcome, Kim. Thanks for coming on. And you are the, what do you call yourself? CEO and founder of Kim Dostaler Coaching, right?
Correct.
Welcome. So I'm really excited to have you on the show because this show is going to be all about talking with women who have gone really far in their careers and are making impact, as well as younger entrepreneurs, newer entrepreneurs, getting into business for the first time. And that's kind of where you are, right? You're just starting your business. So there's lots of people out there who are looking to start businesses, and it can be a pretty harrowing experience, right? On many levels. So I'm really excited to chat with you about your business, how you decided to do it, why you decided to jump in at this time, and all the things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business in a nutshell?
All right, thank you so much, Liisa. I'm really excited to be here. So my business is basis in coaching and health and wellness coaching. So I'm offering packages of health and wellness coaching, 6 to 10 sessions. I'm also offering something called garden coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I have been organically gardening for about 10 years. I have a permaculture design certification, and I want to help people start gardening because I think it's one of the best ways towards wellness. And then I'm also going to be focusing a lot on gluten-free living and supporting people with celiac disease, gluten allergies, and non-celiac gluten sensitivities. As myself, I have celiac disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very tough place to be, and you want nothing more than support when you're first dealing with it. So that is the business in a nutshell. The offerings are probably going to change and morph as I go along, but that's where we're going to start.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about all these different aspects of your business, because to the outsider, from the 30-foot view, you're like, this has nothing to do with each other, right? And when I first met you, you were I think you'd just been diagnosed with celiac, right? So it was a brand new thing for you. So why, or how did that shape your decision to include coaching in this realm?
Well, it was a complete shock when I got diagnosed, complete shock. And while I'd been sort of already on the path of eating healthier and kind of cutting out processed food, I still loved a good bagel. And I termed myself a gluten goblin when I was younger on one of my blog posts on my website. And so when the diagnosis came, it was after 2 years of various health issues that I was kind of struggling with, and I never thought this would be the answer. And I didn't really have much support. There's nutritionists that can kind of tell you exactly what to eat, but nobody talks about the loneliness and the isolation that you feel when your whole life changes. For those people who don't know exactly what it is, it's an autoimmune disorder where if you consume gluten, your body attacks itself. So it eats away at your intestines, it damages the villi, which absorb nutrients, as well as up to 200 different other symptoms that can be very individualistic. So the isolation and the difficultness with not being able to go to certain restaurants, not being able to go out, no spontaneity around food. I had to clean out my entire house. I used to make pizza on my counter. I had to make sure that counter was fully clean. I couldn't go to people's houses and have them cook for me. And I love food. Food was like a big part of my life. And there were many days of crying and trying to figure out what to do, hours of standing in the grocery store being like, I have no idea what to look for here. So after I've had 6 years about at this point under my belt, and I would love to be able to help people just cope with it better than I did, and get through it a little better.
It's interesting because when you say that, I think when you got your diagnosis, I remember there was this big sort of celiac blew up, right? And in the media, and it was kind of trendy. It sort of seemed like, to say that you had celiac or gluten intolerance, and there was lots of these terms that were getting thrown around, and some people would roll their eyes and be like, no, it's not a real thing, or
right.
Stop making it up, So how did that compound your experience?
Well, I was one of those people that I was like, why is this candy labeled gluten-free? Obviously there's no gluten in it, and I was not sensitive to it. And now after understanding, oh, I need that label because there might be a color in there that's not, that I can't be exposed to, or caramel color, or natural flavoring. You know,
non-natural, natural flavoring.
Right, yeah, exactly. So coping with people just being like, oh, well, I mean, you could probably have it sometimes, right? You know, you just take, you know, a pill. I'm sure there's a pill you can help digest it.
Lactose intolerance.
Yeah, right. You know, it's not the same. And I became a little bit more of an advocate for, you know, making sure people are aware that this is very different than just a lifestyle choice. I would probably eat gluten once in a while if I could, but it's not the same. And really education around, you know, gluten doesn't even have to be labeled as an allergen at this point in our food system, which is, you know, really awful for people like me. So just, you know, helping raise the awareness of that and becoming aware myself. And you don't really level up in your own sort of awareness and thinking about things until it mostly likely directly affects you. And it did, and I was like, well, I need to, you know, be a part of the solution here.
I love that. So tell me about when you and I first met,
Yes.
right? We were both in the creative space, working in the gardening space, but you were doing graphic design. So I'm really curious about this shift that you made into health and wellness coaching. I mean, I get where the gardening coaching piece comes from, right? But why did you decide to like change gears like this? Because this is a complete different industry.
Right. Yeah. So I was a graphic designer for over 20 years, and I did love my work. I've always been artistic and loved expressing myself that way, and I really liked kind of solving problems and figuring out communication. However, it wasn't satisfying my need to really be as much of a help in my community and be in a more helping profession. And I'd kind of gone through my own journey of starting to cut out processed food. I quit. I was a pack-a-day smoker until 2010 for 15 years.
Wow.
I quit that, and a lot of this got fueled from the 2008 recession, when my husband and I both started watching a lot of documentaries about food, about corporatocracy, and for me, it was this decision that I didn't want to spend my money on things that were killing me,
for you, yeah,
know,
yeah.
literally. And a lot of other people have different whys for why they changed. Mine was very economic. And that's kind of how I got into it. So I started cutting out processed food. My husband was really into green energy, and we wanted to build a house that was more environmentally friendly, better on our wallet. We didn't want a mortgage. So we actually built a tiny house, and we live in that in the islands. You know, we tried to use all very clean materials and keep our environment clean. Then the permaculture certification and the gardening, and then the celiac. And I, you know, after getting celiac, I had to really learn to cook anything I wanted to eat, and because I wanted to eat well. And after having all of these experiences, changing and growing, I was like, how can I help other people do this? I don't have any credentials. My credentials are a graphic designer. I had a psychology, you know, bachelor's, but I'm not a therapist, I'm not a nutritionist, and I didn't really know how I could contribute with legitimacy. And so
Integrity.
So the impetus was actually, this story is very interesting to me. Last August, we had some friends over and we were hanging out around the fire. And a friend of mine told me her friend, who was in his mid-50s, had a heart attack, and he was pre-diabetic. And he was at his doctor's, and the doctor told him, well, everybody gets diabetes when they get older. And that just hit me like a rock. Like, I could not believe that was coming out of a doctor's mouth, and that was, you know, just standard talk. And I got fired up, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I need to be part of the change. And then I was in the car one day, kind of not driving, and I was looking at my phone tabs, and I had pinned a tab months before that said health and wellness coaching certification. And I was like, did I pin that?
You must
You know, so I was like, well, this is really cool. And, you know, within 2 weeks, I'd found a program I wanted to enroll in. I did the Mind Body Green Institute's 5-month accelerated program. So I did it over last winter, and it was nothing like I thought it was going to be, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. And with the company we were in, both you and I, we know, wasn't in the best of circumstances, and I really wanted a backup plan. I didn't want to freelance design. It just didn't feel right anymore, so I wanted to get in more of that helping space. So here we are, the company.
Probably a really good choice because now I'm, well, the company aside, but I'm part of a lot of social groups and Facebook groups of women in marketing and marketing in general, and just the amount of people that are saying like there's no jobs, or they're being laid off or replaced, or companies are downsizing or going to AI or something like that, especially in graphic design. That's like a whole other conversation, right?
Yep.
Talking about ethics and integrity.
Yep.
But getting into the coaching space, I mean, even though there's a lot of people in that too, right? It's probably a really smart shift for you right now. Yeah. And then, I'm really curious about how you're actually meshing these different spheres, the gardening and the wellness coaching. I know also when we were going through the pandemic, gardening kind of came out as like this antidote to COVID, isolation, and gardening for mental health and stuff. But it really is. It's really great for the mind, and it's great for the body because you're moving, you're doing all your flexibility, right? So tell me a little bit how you incorporate that into your coaching, or is that completely separate?
Well, at this point, I mean, if someone is in health and wellness coaching and they want to start gardening as one of their goals, we will certainly talk about that. But I'm also going to offer packages of specific garden coaching. And there's some different logistics with that. Like with the health and wellness coaching, you do have to sign a coaching agreement. I use HIPAA compliant software because you're talking about medical issues. And the garden coaching wouldn't be as stringent. It would be, I think at this point, the package I've kind of designed is an hour-long consultation with me where we start talking through. And with health and wellness coaching, it's very little of giving resources. There's a little bit of that. It's it can be up to, I believe it's 25% of your sessions. But with garden coaching and something like that, that's more, people are looking for more answers and more knowledge that you have. And my knowledge, I'm an intermediate gardener, but I have knowledge of how to think about things in what order. What do you need to do first? What do you need to do second? What do you really want out of this? So I use the coaching pieces of drawing out the person's inner motivation for why they want to garden. And then whatever resources they need, I can also provide those. And then I believe I'm going to also offer site visits for people that are local. So we'll go to their space, walk around for an hour, talk about the various mitigating circumstances that are, that are at their space. And we'll talk about things like how much time do they want to spend? What budget do they have? And what is realistic for them? Because a lot of people think, I just want to garden, but
They're a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And if you don't want to do that much work, there's various ways that you can garden on a smaller scale that's more appropriate for what you really are, wanting. So.
I have like so many small space gardening books. The books are small as well.
Right.
But like, from everything from a pot to a trough to an actual big long garden.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk about your experience starting a business. Like you talked about not having support, like when you got diagnosed with celiac. And one of the things that I often find is, when people are starting businesses, it's like drinking from a fire hose, and there are so many things to do. You don't even know what you don't know. And I know for me, it was like, oh, I have to separate my bank accounts. I have to do this. I have to do that. And you have to then all wear all the hats. You have to be your own bookkeeper. You have to be your own marketer. You have to be your own HIPAA compliance officer, right? HR, all the stuff. So tell me a little bit about how once you decided you were going to do your business, you were going to start your business, what did you do next, and how did you decide what you were going to do?
What did I do? So I'm still in the middle of it, as we know.
Right.
So the first thing I did was I tried to, I was all over the place. I was doing this, I was doing this, I was doing this. I was, I couldn't kind of settle in on a focus. So for me, trying to figure out that focus and what did I need to do first? Well, first I need to find what my offerings are. And I actually just had my first business coaching call with a business coach. And we were talking about my offerings in the garden coaching and kind of trying to get that refined, as well as talking about the gluten-free living offering. So I think getting the offerings set, and then also thinking about finances, like I'm going to open a business bank account today. That's on my list. And trying to find a rhythm and a schedule. If you go to work every day, which I did for 25 years, you have a schedule set by the place you're working. And I'm trying to find a schedule that fits for me, as well as fitting in my health and wellness practices. Coaching is a modeling profession, and if you're not really engaging in those behaviors, you're probably not coaching as well. So trying to fit those in. And get a website done. Thankfully, I'm a graphic designer, so I could do that myself. I got my business cards printed. And then figuring out, where do my clients live? Where am I reaching out to? Where do I want to put my materials? And it still feels like I'm in a little bit of a shuffle of trying to figure out what to do when, but I really believe that the first thing I do when I start my day is, if I have something that I need to get back to somebody else about, I do that first. Because if I promise them something, so that sort of sets up my day. I make a to-do list. I started using Monday.com as my project management software. So I'm really still in the throes of trying to figure it all out, but I feel like I'm in a good place. Thank you for having me on this show.
Of course.
And you've been a big champion for me, which is amazing. I appreciate that so much. And looking for networking groups to join, and just getting my name out there as much as possible. And even if things aren't perfect and they're not set in stone, saying what they are, getting them out there, and then seeing what develops from there. What do people want? What are they excited about? So I'm still kind of in that phase of information gathering, I would say.
I think that done is better than perfect is going to be something that serves you forever. It certainly is me. There's this tendency when you're in entrepreneurial land of analysis paralysis, and you overthink everything, and then you can't make a decision, and then 3 weeks have passed, and you're like, I'm still stuck in the same place.
Right.
But I want to talk a little bit. You had talked about that your mentor and your business coach. I want to talk about coaching in a little bit. Don't let me forget that.
Okay.
But the other thing that you touched upon is like getting your daily routine. And I think something for me that really stuck from my business coach was, especially in the online realm, right? It's really easy. You're working from home. You're living the laptop life. Right? You can make 6 figures tomorrow. But what people don't tell you is like how to structure your day. And my business coach once said, imagine that your business is an ice cream shop. Like, what do you do to make sure your people know you're open for business every day, right? Like, you unlock the door, you turn over the sign, you turn on the lights, you make sure the ice cream hasn't melted overnight, you make sure that you've got all the cones ready and the scoops and the things to clean the scoops, and then there's money in the cash register, all the things that you need to be able to open your business for the day. And like your online coaching thing, whether it's health coaching, copywriting coaching, whatever, it should be the same. Because if you're not opening for business every day, you don't have a business, you have a hobby, right? So I think that was a really great visual for me of like, okay, if my business was a brick and mortar thing, what would I do, and how can I translate that into the online space? And that's been really helpful.
I love that metaphor.
Right? And I love ice cream.
I love a good metaphor. I can't eat ice cream, but
So mentorship, like what, and then I think it's what really astounds me is that there's so many small business owners who put that off, who don't get business coaching, who don't feel like that's an investment they need to make. Why did you decide that that was something that you needed to do this early on, like as a first step?
Because honestly, I feel like it's catching on, and everyone I talk to, you included, another woman I'm friends with who started an interior design business last year, she's kind of catapulted. And some of the other women that I graduated my program with have business coaches. It just seemed like the best investment I could do. I don't know how to run a business. I want to coach and I want to talk about change and I want to garden, but I don't know anything about cash flow projections or budgeting or anything. Like, I have a pretty good household budget, but
it's not like a business.
No.
And then paying the taxes and the quarterlies.
Yeah. I did a little bit of that when I was freelancing, so I know to set aside 30% like religiously. But it just made sense. Like, I've always loved learning. I've always loved learning new concepts and becoming adept at them, and I'm not going to learn that unless I talk to someone who knows what they're doing. So for me, it kind of was like it's a no-brainer. And business coaching can be expensive. So the woman I'm working with, she's actually an anti-capitalist business coach. And she does a lot of sliding scale and ways to afford her services that aren't the full, maybe a full 4-month package, which I really love. I'm someone who can take ideas and run with them, so I don't need as much of the hand-holding in between, so that's going to work for me, I think.
So far it seems to be.
Yeah, but so it just seemed like the smartest thing to do, the smartest investment I could make. Because why flounder around trying things? Like, I tended to work alone most of my life as a graphic designer. Like, all of it has come from in here, with teamwork, but like the work production was from me.
Right, there's a lot of sitting alone in front of a computer, yeah.
Yeah, and I personally need to think more about reaching out and doing that. So I was like, this is the perfect time to start. Like, I'm gonna get myself some help. And you don't know what you don't know, like you said. And just today, she can even say something back as a coach would that you've kind of thought about, and they say it back, they're like, no, that's a great idea, run with that. So you get some feedback on your ideas, and it pumps you up, for sure.
Yeah, it keeps you on track, gives you a little accountability too.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a really key point. Like, coaching is expensive, but the cost of not getting coaching and mentorship can be so much more, right? Like, so you could, a coach might be really expensive, but you get to where you want to go within 6 months, a year, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get on track versus trying to figure it out on your own. You do a little bit of YouTube, you do a little bit of this, you do a little of that. There's lots of conflicting advice, and then you don't know what you're doing. And then 5 years later, you're like, dang, I'm still like not making money.
Right.
So invest it, that the ROI on that investment is really, really huge.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people, saying, well, I just need a couple more clients before I invest in coaching. And it's like, but you need the coaching to get the clients. Yes,
Right.
Yes. I'm curious, like, what other mentors are in your life, or who do you follow that has been instrumental in your either decision to be an entrepreneur again or helping you along the way?
That's a good question. I don't business has always been a tough word for me. When the recession happened and I sort of kind of woke up to the way the financial system was and how it wasn't fair for a lot of people. And I that word business made me want to run. And after running for a while, kind of veering back in and being like, well, this is the way the society's working right now, and this is the way we can do some good, and we can structure it so that we can do more good. So I don't have a lot of business folks that have inspired me as much. I have definitely been more of the space of one of my favorite authors is Charles Eisenstein. He wrote, among several books, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible and Sacred Economics, which is a book that talks about different ways money can be used other than we are now, that are more fair systems. So that was really instrumental in me kind of getting into an alternative space where I could even get to where I am now. People in the permaculture world, I took a course with Ben Falk. He's in Moortown, Vermont. He owns Whole System Design. He was super inspirational. He has a couple books out. And that whole movement of, and there's Jeff Lawton and various other figures. I wish there was women's names. I wish the women's names would come to me. Yes. So my inspiration has been more in that space. So I probably should look to a little bit more business-related personas maybe to help me along in this space. I have all the inspiration, but now it's the nitty-gritty know-how.
No shooting on yourself. We don't have that word. But that's really great, because then you have a wide perspective. And now as you're talking, it really makes more sense to me that you picked a business coach who has slated herself as the anti-capitalist business coach. I'm curious about that piece, because some of the things that entrepreneurs that are my clients and that I am in contact with have a really hard time with sales, with this whole sort of capitalist sort of idea. How are you navigating that?
Well, I'm, like I said, just starting, but the way I'm trying to think about it is I have a service that I know is valuable. And the way we trade services at this day and age is we pay for them. I mean, bartering is obviously an option and stuff like that. But you have to think that there is value and you're not just selling snake oil, you're not just throwing more plastic into the world. So coping with learning your value and knowing that people will pay for it if they want it. And so you just need to get that message out to as many people as you can. And when they feel good about paying for it, then you feel better about giving it and charging for it. I actually thought one of the women who was one of my teachers in my program, I was on her website, and the way she prices her packages, instead of saying price, she says investment. So people are really investing in themselves when they do coaching, when they learn to garden, when they learn to cook gluten-free. So, the point being, having your prices not be exploitative, but being able to feed and clothe and house yourself and have a little fun. I think that is the closest we're going to get at this point to being fair. Sliding scales are a really great way to do things. Groups, doing things as groups, group coaching are more affordable, and I hope to be offering some of those things. I'm doing a workshop actually at the end of October for gardening, and more accessible ways of getting your material out there.
Yeah, plus that group coaching, and then you get tap into the collective.
Right.
And that's such a great energy. I think, what you said sort of is along the lines of what one of my business coaches once told me was, a lot of us were struggling with that whole, well, how do I price? And, pricing yourself and what you're worth aside, the concept that she gave us with was, there's so many things being pitched to you every day, or you need new bed sheets. You don't think twice about going to get new bed sheets, right? Or a pan for your kitchen or something. So why is it that your service is any different? And then on the flip side, if you've got the solution to somebody's problem and you don't offer it to them, you're a bit of a expletive word, right? Like that doesn't make you a very nice person. So why withhold the solution to somebody's problem that they're struggling with when you can offer it to them and you can get paid a fair price for it, right?
Absolutely. And that's interesting that you said the thing about the sheets. When we buy something, that's a little bit of a different feeling, right? Like something physical, like we can see it, we can touch it, we feel no problem because we are a very materialistic society. And so it's like, oh, that's fine. But investing in yourself, that feels hard. And I think that's also why it's so hard to charge for it. It's like, people, how do you measure your worth and what your worth will, how your self-esteem and your self-efficacy will grow with this service? So I think it's really sticky for a lot of people.
It's sticky, it's nebulous, but I think, especially with health coaching and especially the demographic of people that you're serving, 40 plus women, right? People that are perimenopausal, getting into menopause, exiting out of it. That's definitely physical and tangible, right? Because we get into that, and I'm aging myself, we get into that age and suddenly nothing works. Everything aches, everything hurts. We can't run around after the kids anymore. The dog pulls us down the street, so being able to look at the other side and I want to feel better. I want to be able to do the activities, have the flexibility, have the energy, stick around for grandchildren if that's the thing, or just not die when you're 55, maybe the other people in your family did. So having that longevity, that's really tangible. And I think a lot more people are realizing that in the past, our lives ended at 55, 65, you retired, you sat, you knitted all day, and then you just waited to die. And people are just not willing to accept that anymore.
No, not at all. And I think, being able to have that time and invest in yourself, and a lot of people get that after they retire. So there's that piece too that, when we're trying to step into our own as women, and that we matter, we still have so much life in us. I hate that idea of a women's life is over and whatever, and there's so much growing and learning to do. And I think it's exciting to work with people in that stage to open up whole new worlds to them.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one thing that struck me when I was in my 20s that really shaped my entire outlook. I was working in academia, and there was a woman I worked with. Her name was Jackie. and she was approaching retirement age, and she was so excited for retirement. She's like, you know, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to go hiking, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to divorce my husband because I don't like him, and I'm just going to have the best time. And she was just so looking forward to doing everything she hadn't done. She retired. 3 months later, she had a heart attack and died. And I was like, oh my God, you can't wait. If you've got an idea, right? Like it just gives you chills. It gives me goosebumps even today, 35 years later. And it's just like, you know, there's still so much you have to give and offer. And yes, you can do other things after retirement, but don't wait.
Don't wait.
Don't
I
ever
agree.
wait.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And even, you know, one of the things I love about health and wellness coaching and thinking about it holistically is if you can fit in one little habit, you don't have to do all the things at once. You know, if you can get out there and take a walk, your whole world can shift.
Yes.
And you don't have to think, well, I need to go out there and be lifting weights and walking every day and meditating and reading all the books. And, you know, one little goal, one little forward motion can sort of shift everything.
Yeah, so that's a good little segue, because your tagline is something to do with shifting. What is your tagline?
My tagline is shift your world.
And why? Where did that come from?
So I was, you know, working on taglines, and you know,
As you do.
as I do, you know, being a designer and working in marketing language, I've done this a lot.
Yeah.
So I was having a lot of fun working on it, and when that one came up, I was like, "Whoa, that's good." And I kept kind of, you know, and then I presented, I think, 2 to my husband, and he's like, "That's the one." And as I thought about it more, the reason I love it is I kind of think about it on several levels. The first level is what I just said. You know, you make one, say you decide to, you know, start doing resistance training. CDC says you're supposed to do it 2 times a week. So you faithfully do that for a few weeks, a month. And all of a sudden you notice you're lifting stuff off shelves that you couldn't do before. You maybe can pick up your grandkid, or maybe you can go push the mower in the yard. Or
you can reach like this into the cabinet and not hurt yourself.
Absolutely. So, and it's like, whoa, and it's a shift that you're like, wow, I can't believe I did this. You know, it's pretty amazing. And then you can think about it in terms of more holistically. So say a client comes in and they say, I'm not sleeping well, I really don't feel strong, and I have a lot of stress. So what coaches do is we kind of look at the whole picture, and we get you to get to the point that you pick something that feels like the highest focus for you right now. What's coming top of mind? What are you really thinking about? Because thinking of all those things at once, again, is overwhelming. You know, you can't change all your habits at once. So no. So say they say, okay, sleep comes to the top for me. So as a coach, you work with them, and they end up setting some goals around getting better sleep and getting their room all nice and, you know, the right temperature, and getting their phone out of their room, and some relaxation exercises. And lo and behold, after, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep when they were getting 4 to 5 maybe, or 5 to 6. And with that change, all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I have enough energy now to go lift some weights. I feel less stressed because I'm not tired when I wake up. And so
You're not planning nap time the minute you wake up.
So all of these, you make one small shift, and then everything shifts. And we have this wheel of well-being in health coaching that it's like 6 facets of life, and you know, we kind of talk about each of them. But when you make shifts in one, you're gonna make shifts in the other. It's gonna happen, and it'll be almost unexpected, and you'll be like, my entire world feels different. So I really like thinking about it that way. And then the third way I love thinking about it is, if you shift yourself, if you make positive changes, you're gonna change your friends, you're gonna change your family, you're gonna ripple that effect out to your community, to your workplace, to the whole world, really. It's the butterfly effect, you know? It's amazing that if you say you're all of a sudden more patient because you're meditating, you're going to smile at someone in the grocery store when you may have been grumpy. You're going to, you know, get out there on a walk, and someone's going to see you and go, maybe I should go on a walk. You know, and it's this ripple effect, and I think maybe it's a little esoteric, but I think it's it's very true. And we can't bring up our societies and our communities unless we bring ourselves up first. And I think you can do them in tandem, but like you do have to, do a little focus on yourself.
Absolutely. It's that whole put your own oxygen mask on before
Right.
you put other people's on.
Right.
I lost my train of thought.
Shift your world, holistic.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So you're shifting individuals' worlds.
Yes.
And then if you get into the group coaching, you're going to shift more individuals' worlds. What is your big plan? What is your plan for world domination? What is your master plan?
My master plan. Well, I live up in the islands, and it's a very, it's an interesting community. There's a lot of people there in the.
You're not from there?
No, I grew up in Essex, in Vermont, but I now live in Isle of Mont, and it's a very interesting place to live. There's a lot of snowbirds there. The population booms in the summer, and very dwindles in the winter. And in thinking about the space you live, I would love to just have more wellness options on the islands for people. There's not a lot of businesses up there. There's not a lot of, hustle bustle. Some South Heroes, doing pretty well, but as you move up, there's not a lot going on. So our island could use some development in terms of what are offerings. Could we develop? My husband's really interested in he's part of the community organization, developing some walking trails, developing some places for people to gather. Eventually, access to the lake. I'd love to do some, maybe talks at my community spaces on gardening or on, reducing processed food. Things even as simple as do a workshop on drinking less soda or very, very small steps to get people in a healthier space. And I think Vermonters actually are pretty healthy as comparatively. But the other piece is I would love to be a space for gluten-free food. So that's my other passion that I would love to combine into my business at some point is cooking and providing gluten-free meals to people, especially celiac safe, because there are very few options.
Yeah, I was going to say when you said at the very beginning that you live in the islands and you're a foodie, there's not going to be a lot of options for you to go out to eat and look and get good food.
No.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to, I've got plans to work on that, but I again have to focus. So I'm kind of knocking that down the road a little bit. But, my husband and I have talked about hosting basically a little retreat space where people could come and learn to cook gluten-free and get some coaching, and I could feed them and cook for them, and, or just having, a little more livelihood and having a space for people that need to learn these skills and a haven. And we love hosting people, and having people up to our space at our little tiny house is a joy. And so that's kind of I think that's where I'm at in terms of world domination. Maybe little island domination.
I love it. But that's again if you impact your island, you're going to impact so much more, and that ripple is going to spread. I want to touch on one last thing with the celiac thing, because it's obvious you're really passionate about it. You just light up when you talk about it. I noticed on your website that you offer pro bono coaching for folks with celiac disease. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think it is such a difficult diagnosis that and this is where the money charging comes in. It's difficult that I would love to offer that to people, especially newly diagnosed, because the idea of trying to ask someone for money to help them out in such a dire place feels really, really, really wrong to me.
When their very existence depends on them being able to eat. Yeah,
correct. And I think that if a business is to be, legitimate and to be doing good in the world, you have to have some kind of services like that. And that's the closest to me. So I thought, why don't I do this? So yeah, if you have celiac and you're looking for some health coaching, please get in touch with me, and I'd love to work with you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, that can also help, goes back to the conversation around what to charge and how much to charge. If you can charge what you're worth and what your service is worth to the people who can afford it, then you can then afford to give back
Absolutely.
to communities who can't. That's the circle, right? That's the infinity loop
That's
of
right.
giving, taking in and giving back and paying it forward and paying it back, and all those trite metaphors and memes.
It's all a flow, right?
It
all a
is.
flow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I
you.
really enjoyed our conversation. I wish you all the wealth and health and success in your business, and growing it. I can't wait to see what you do with it, and I can't wait to support you in the next level.
Thank you so much,
thank
Liisa.
you
This
for
has been
coming.
great. I can't believe it's been an hour.
Well, 45 minutes.
Okay, 45 minutes,
So
okay.
it hasn't, so you're not too bad. But yeah, it's been a great conversation. And thank you, everybody, for checking in. And we will see you next time on SHEnanigans.